This is the Free Zone Communique, transmitting from Virginia's unoccupied sector. If you think smart cities, DEI, censorship, government intrusion, bug paste, and other left-wing nonsense are no longer a possibility, think again. We've won one election with slim majorities. Our work to rebuild a free and sane America has just begun.
This is indeed the Free Zone Communique. I'm your host, Matt Jordan, with the face for radio and a voice for newsprint. Tonight we have a very special guest, Brittany Kosin. She is a member of the Libertarian Party. I brought her on for that specific reason. Although I have watched her podcast, I have read a lot of her stuff, and I like what I hear. To be honest with you, I believe deep down inside this conservative is a libertarian trying to get out. In the meantime, my favorite lawyer is back in the news. Cue the Nathan Wade love song.
She might be lumpy. She might be frumpy. She might have those big old cankles going on. But she's my fanny, and she pays me well.
Grumpy Fanny has been pulled off. She's been benched from this nonsensical Georgia Trump persecution. Besides her ridiculous relationship with Nathan Wade, spending tax dollars on her boyfriend, who she also hired for way too much money. You also have the issue of she and Nathan Wade timing their prosecutions with other states and the District of Columbia so as to do the most political damage to Trump's campaign. They waited between 3 and 8 years to bring the charges, and then when they were in the depths of the campaign, they started to insist that the courts move at lightning speed, and 2 corrupt judges did their best to do exactly that. But the appeals courts were having none of it. In the meantime, all the stuff came to light about Frumpy Fanny and Nathan Wade, and they decided to put that one aside. She can appeal. I honestly hope she does. I hope she does appeal. I want to have her to kick around for a while longer. It will demonstrate the circus that is the Democratic Party and their willingness to prosecute people for political reasons. Brittany is a real underachiever. She's an RN and a firefighter. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And EMT.
Jesus. How do you do all that? Well, I'm going to let her take you through that. Also, because she doesn't have enough to do, being those 3 things and a mother and a wife, she decided she wanted to run for office and become a libertarian activist.
Yep.
Okay. I gotta tell you, folks, I do this show and I edit this show, and plus a little bit of research, and that's a full-time job. I get done my day, man. I'm beat. I'm all in. Maybe I'm the real underachiever in this equation here. But with that, I'd like to welcome Brittany. Welcome to the Free Zone Communique.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be on.
How is your holiday progressing?
It does not feel like Christmas this year. I don't know why. It just does not feel like it. I don't know if it's just I've been so busy and then we got sick after Thanksgiving. So I haven't really decorated. I think my Christmas tree's been up since last Christmas. I never took it down. I just spruced it up this year and plugged it in.
We don't even have a Christmas tree this year. Talk about a pair of bah humburgers. We do the important traditions, eggnog hangovers, die hard, hanging out with all my ho-ho-hos, My decorations this year are three inflatables on my lawn.
You have me beat. I have two.
Yeah, it took me all 20 seconds to do my decoration.
My dad put them up. I live across the street from my parents, and my dad decorated my yard for me.
I have a buddy, Dale, who goes absolutely nuts and I know he's watching. Hi, Dale. He goes absolutely nuts for Halloween and Christmas. He's got a big lawn, and it is buried in decorations, and they're really good stuff. It puts me to shame every time I see his stuff. I have to turn it off because I feel like a schlub. But Brittany, if you could, because I would be doing it secondhand. First, tell me, well, how did you get involved in nursing and firefighting? Where does that come from?
So firefighting comes from my dad and my great-grandfather. They were both firefighters. My dad's still a life member at our local fire company. I showed a little bit of interest in it when I was in high school, and one of the girls I played lacrosse with was the daughter of the local chief at another company nearby. And she's like, "Oh, you want to be a firefighter? So do I. So here's the form. It's filled out. Just turn it into your township, join, be a member, do this, do that, and now here we go." And I originally joined in March of 2006. And by June, I was in Fire 1 classes at the local fire academy. And she's like, "Oh, you did that? Okay." Because we were in class together. She's like, "Okay, next summer, we're doing EMT.
And how old were you when you started?
15.
15. And in 16, you started EMT training.
Yep.
Jesus. And from there, obviously, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Your EMT work developed your interest in nursing?
Technically, yes. I took a little side trip and went to school for meteorology at first. I wanted to be a firestorm meteorologist.
Okay.
With the wildfires and stuff. And I had one teacher who was great as a meteorologist, but not great as a teacher. And we had to memorize all of our formulas for all of it.
Yeah.
And we usually have computers for that. So I went, this is more of a hobby. And that's when I switched to nursing.
I do weather as a hobby. I am consistently 48 to 72 hours ahead of the hurricane studiers, analysts, whatever you want to call them, as to landfall. Anything coming to the U.S., I start studying the charts days ahead of time. And I can tell you, usually within about 10 miles of where that booger's going to come ashore. So there you are into nursing.
Yep.
How do you balance all that? Nursing, motherhood, wifeism, and firefighting.
Firefighting has taken a back burner ever since my daughter was born. And that's just because I had kids, and then I went and had another kid, and I'm like, I don't know. And then I tried to get back, like 2 years ago now. And there was a lot going on. So I was just like, I just can't commit right now. I did do my Fire 2 training in that time. So I do have a whole inch binder of over the years of trainings that I've done and certifications I've gotten. But that's kind of taken a back burner till school's done and my master's is done and I have the free time again.
Master's now?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'm finishing up my bachelor's in the spring, and that only took me 10 years to do. And then I'm chronic student, and then going in straight into my master's in healthcare policy.
Yeah. I see you got the dark hoodie memo. I'm glad.
Yeah, no, it was the only one that didn't have an obnoxious front design.
Twinsies. What do you got?
Mine is for
On the
the
front of this one, I see Midnight. What is that?
Dark Knights.
Dark
It's
Knight.
for Hershey Park.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
Yep. And the back is Anti-Mortem's Abattoir, the slaughterhouse,
Okay.
haunted house.
I got
So the
this
front's a
one
little bit
from
more.
I got this one from my grandkids last year. So, in preparation for my discussion with Brittany, I broke out old copies of my von Mises economics, and I started to read Rothbard. There's an interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know you're going to correct me, but I want people to understand some of the stereotypes surrounding libertarianism. I had one friend who was a libertarian who said libertarianism is economic and social chaos. You know, you do what you want when you want, and there's no governing, and you can take over your street and charge a toll, and he was absurd. He's also a little out there on the
He's more on the anarchists.
right. He's an anarchist, and other people said, you know, they're just like some people say we're liberals with a conservative touch, or conservatives with a liberal touch. But I think there's a lot more to it than that, and
Mm-hmm.
I need you to educate us.
So my favorite phrase that I use with a lot of people to narrow libertarianism down is "you do you, boo boo." I'll do me, you do you. And that's the big thing to take away from libertarians. We want to be able to do what we want just as much as you want to be able to do what you want. You don't tell me what to do, I won't tell you what to do. You come after me, be sure ready for me to come after you, but I'm not going to attack first. That's why our mascot is the porcupine.
Good.
It is, yep. That's
Very good.
exactly why.
Now, how does governance fit into all this?
The big thing is we don't want we are all for small government. Smaller the better. Absolutely none, even better. But we understand there's some level of order needed. But a lot of it is we're all for the government not being involved in a lot of stuff that it is right now, like healthcare and economics a lot, and free trade and the free market and stuff. We're all for keeping everything in the hands of the people instead of the government.
I can't fault any of that.
No.
It seems somewhat since Monroe, but absolutely since FDR. The American electorate has gotten everything exactly backward.
Yep.
I always say the politician who should be up at night getting gas, getting hemorrhoids, trying to figure out how to take care of his constituency is your mayor. The president should be, oh, yeah, that dude, whatever his name is. Yeah, that's how important the president should be. He is in charge of a federal branch of government. Okay, the executive branch of government. That is his job, to run that branch.
Mm-hmm.
But we have come to say we need a leader to run the country. That's exactly backwards. That is exactly the opposite of what the framers of the Constitution intended. Would that be, in your mind, an accurate assessment?
Pretty darn close. Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to Rogan today. Well, I'll get to that in a bit, because there's still more I want to do with respect to the general ideas. What is among your friends? What's the reaction to today's political zoo? We'll start with the election, the presidential election.
I actually have friends on both sides of the political spectrum. I have some that are Republican and very far
Right now, I'm talking
Republican.
about libertarians, specifically.
Libertarian friends. I have some, like, they're all, I have some that are very happy that Trump won.
Right.
I have some that could care less. I have some that were upset that we didn't have more support for our Libertarian candidate, Chase. Um, and it comes down to, again, it is our leadership at the top was wined and dined and convinced by Trump's campaign that they were the savior and the ones to follow. And that's kind of it is. And we had our own candidate, and we had a great candidate and a great team for president and vice president.
Now, I wasn't researching libertarian at the time. I will say, based on our discussion so far and everything I know, I'm probably closer to libertarian than I am GOP. I've been backing Trump lately, not because I like him. Personally, I find him, well, he sets my teeth on edge. But I do like the fact that he is more hands-off than his Democratic counterparts. And I intensely disagree with the way he's been treated, using the courts to defeat him politically. Mm-hmm. So my loyalties were driven more by my ethics and morals than by my love or dislike of Trump.
Yeah.
And I just bailed on my track of thought. Yes, I was going to say, because of where I've been concentrating, I didn't even know there was a libertarian candidate for president this year.
Mm-hmm.
You said Chase?
Chase Oliver was our president candidate, and Mike Tremont was our vice president candidate.
We'll leave some links for everybody to look at. Chase Oliver and
Mike Tremont.
I did watch your show with Spike Cohen.
Yeah, I love
My
Spike.
man.
I love Spike.
He is a previous vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, a businessman who he bailed on business, not necessarily to pursue politics. He bailed on business because it was eating his insides out, and he was going to have a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided better for his health to find another pursuit, and he got into politics. And he was probably just as fanatical about that, right?
Mm-hmm. Spike, I could spend hours just chit-chatting with him about all different stuff, from political to he does a lot with his nonprofit, You Are the Power, and that is like it's political to a point, and I love it. It's just political enough.
Right. It's more of a social movement.
Yeah, definitely. That just helps with some political things.
Yeah, I'll leave a link to You Are the Power. Is .com, .gov, .us.
I'll get you what their exact link is. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, so
there's too many websites I have to remember.
If I could do some quick house cleaning here, always when you're watching one of our videos or listening to our audios, everywhere I can below the media line, you'll find all the links we mentioned in the show. Plus, you'll find all the links to support the show. That will range from dealing with our sponsors at Hero Company. Have you ever heard of them, Brittany?
I'm not familiar.
They raise money to get service dogs into the hands of veterans at no cost to the veteran. You're talking about guys with PTSD and other ailments, other disabilities caused by combat. And they get them service dogs. So the P4B and the Free Zone Communique support them. It's a symbiotic relationship. You also have Poe River, where you can get Trump gear, P4B gear, free zone gear, whatever you want. And all this supports the podcast. And of course, always, always, always share, subscribe, like, follow. And if you're listening to me on Apple, leave a review, please. Reviews are very, very good. They help. Not only do they tell us what we need to know to improve the show, but they also are excellent tools for growth on Apple. We are tiny, tiny, tiny fish on a whole lot of outlets. We're growing on Rumble. We have about 80,000 users on Substack and a few thousand on Rumble right now. We're going to get kicked off of YouTube pretty soon. I just say all the wrong things on YouTube. YouTube and Google kick my ass every week. I'm getting throttled and beat up, and my videos are disappearing. But what are you going to do?
Means you're doing something right then.
I think so. I think so. Which brings me to the next subject I want to talk about, and that is all the censorship. People call it other things or say we're not being censored, but we're absolutely being censored. I mean,
I
go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. I've think I've cracked a little bit of the code, being I have a bunch of it were for my podcast, a bunch of things that I have found a way to get around some of the things. But I definitely notice on different platforms where stuff gets out or doesn't get out and who it gets out to.
There was Violet Witchell. I was watching. She does a recipe blog. I don't know how the hell it popped on my stuff, but um, she was being interviewed, and she said that she mentioned on her podcast that she was going to be honeymooning in Egypt, and she had her stuff yanked because she said the word Egypt, because Egypt means terrorists, and you're being critical of terrorist countries because they have terrorists in them. She was just saying, I'm going to Egypt, you know?
That's it was
And it would have been, the typical places, Giza, Cairo, maybe that resort on the canal,
mhm.
cool place.
Yeah.
And she got throttled for saying the word Egypt.
That's the same as it's somewhere my husband and I got flagged by the FBI because it's a twofold thing. We traveled to Indonesia like 2 years ago for a wedding, for family, and we came back and our oldest, who likes to play video games, it was like Hearts of Iron 4 or something like that. So it's like a world domination game and they have building nuclear weapons. He typed in where to get uranium and did not finish his sentence of in Hearts of Iron 4. So
The phrase
sirens and
within
lights went off for them.
Yeah.
And we got a phone call going, "What you doing?
Yeah.
What you thinking of? You traveled to Indonesia. Did you go to this place or that place?" We're like, "No, we were up in the middle of nowhere. Like we weren't even near Bali or any of that. Like
Yeah.
we weren't in Sumatra. We were up in Blatar and Jakarta." And there it was just you can't say anything because like my son typed in the wrong phrase and it set off alerts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's affected this show in so many ways. I have lost personnel on this show. Let's put it that way. To the censorship, to the imprisonment attitude that people have, and this booger, this is a spy. Okay, I have not looked up workouts, workout programs, exercise, anything like that for a long, long time. But the other day I talked at some length to my wife about exercise, and I was day one back on my I go on and off my exercise regimen. So I'm day one back on my exercise regimen, and we were talking about it. Today I am inundated with buy this workout program, check out this workout program. Here's how you build your abs. I've done none of that in I don't know how long. And this is the reason. This was sitting right next to me when I was talking about it. And these people, they've gained control of our lives, in my opinion, but only because we let them. I used to freak out about the Holocaust, Jews being rounded up onto trains by the tens of thousands by a handful of guards. At no time did anybody in the crowd say they can't kill us all at once. We overwhelm them, we kill them, and most of us get away. Nobody even thought to say that. But they did have guns, and they did have coercion, they did have beatings, they were dragging people through the streets. In the United States, it doesn't even take that. We're 1984 without the Ministry of Love.
Yeah.
We just, some cool dipshit on Instagram says something, and half the country says, okay. And the argument's over.
Yeah.
You know?
Now we have artificial intelligence too.
Yeah, and artificial intelligence is going to make that even worse. But these people pick it up, and we get throttled, and everybody bitches. Oh, I got throttled. You know, they tell their friends, and then they don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know?
They complain for a little bit and don't put any effort behind their words. They're, in truth, the keyboard warriors.
Correct.
There's just some that actually have some oomph behind it and use it for good, and others just use it to hear themselves talk.
Yeah. TikTok can't control us. If 99% of the people on TikTok quit, boycott TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, we just pick your target and boycott them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Trump won the presidency. I went on a little tangent there. Did you notice? Because we were talking about the election 10 minutes ago. So Trump wins the presidency. And you have the transition going on. And we do this, I hate these things, it's continuing CR. Okay. How did you see that abortion in the last week or so?
I honestly, right now, I've been just avoiding a lot of federal politics completely right now till after Inauguration Day, just because it's nothing but tit for tat or drama. That why raise my blood pressure when it's already done.
No. But I was hoping to get your take on first continuing resolutions. It's Congress has one goddamn job. One. Pass the budget. Everything else Congress does is
Extra.
icing on the cake. Extra. We haven't, what's it been, 19 years? I think in 19 years we passed one budget or something.
Oh yeah, it's always just been, they keep kicking the can down the road. Eventually someone's gonna have to deal with it, but right now they don't have to.
Right. And it's in the CRs that they load up this crap, you know, all the earmarks, you know, billions and billions of dollars worth of earmarks. In this case, you went from an 80-page bill. Here's the CR. Here's what we're spending. We spend it this year. We spend it next year. And then the political whores got a hold of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it went to 1,500 pages, excuse me, of extraneous bullshit. And we're supposed to be okay with that.
One of my favorite things they tried to get in there, I think it was actually removed, was they wanted to give the Washington Commanders a new football stadium.
Is
That was part of it. That was one of the things.
name of God, is that my problem? You know, I mean, I live in the state of Virginia, but I don't care about whether they put the stadium in Virginia or DC or Maryland. That doesn't mean
Mhm.
anything to me. And if the American taxpayer drops $3 billion on that facility, does that mean we can all just show up and go in there anytime we want? It's
Yeah.
ours,
I shouldn't have to pay for a ticket then.
right? You would
I've
think.
paid for my ticket for at least one game.
I think there are two stadiums in America that were built by their teams.
Green Bay is one of them.
Green Bay is one of them. That's correct. I believe Green Bay is the only one that operates in the black.
Think so.
All the rest can't business their way out of a wet paper bag, and they were all paid for by the American citizen. But
Mhm.
if you want to get into a Dallas game, for example, you're going to have to come across with some serious cash.
Mhm.
But it's your stadium.
Yeah.
You paid to build it, you sucker.
Yes, it's like my Eagles. They're wanting to build a new stadium. They want a new stadium already. I'm like, that one's fine. You just want a dome because you want the Super Bowl.
This one's what, 17 years old? Not even that old,
It's
right?
not that old. It's fine. They just want to make it a dome so that they can host the Super Bowl because it's not a dome.
Well, the Eagles can pay for that damn dome.
Yeah. Nah, I don't want to have to pay for it. Lori can figure out his money. He can go find donors that aren't taxpayers.
Yeah, to be honest with you, they could have fixed up the vet. You
Yeah,
know,
true.
uh, a lot of people who came up after me thought, "Oh my God, the vet's old." No one. The vet was built around the time we were putting men on the moon. That wasn't that long ago for a stadium. How old was how old was Connie Mack when they finally tore that down?
Yeah.
With Jibe Park for a couple of generations, and then they called it Connie Mack, and it was beat up. I grant you, but it was steel and concrete. You can repair steel and concrete till the cows come home, you know? But we need a new venue. Okay, so you build the vet. The vet's 30 something,
It was something like that.
and then we build FedEx Field. Seriously?
Yeah, we have Lincoln Financial and Citizen Bank.
Citizen
Those
Bank.
are the two that replaced it.
That's
We
right.
went separate, two separate ones. So it kind of made sense because then they can have two games at once. But just imagine the traffic. Or
Yeah, well,
have three games. Have a Sixers or Flyers game at Wells Fargo. Have a football game at the Link. And have the Phillies be in the playoffs for the World Series at Citizens Bank.
yeah.
And figure out parking and transportation down at that time because they're all right around the same time.
I was one time in Philly when the old uh, Franklin Field, the Spectrum, and the Vet had events. One was a concert, and then you had like Sixers and football or something like that. I forget.
Probably.
But talk about a nut house. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's why I go to Allentown for the Phantoms. I
There you
don't
go.
do the Flyers. I do the Phantoms. They're cheaper too.
We have an extension team down here in Fredericksburg. It's a is it Caps, Washington? Not Caps. Baseball. Anyway, the DC team has their own extension team in Fredericksburg, and I prefer, double A ball.
Mm-hmm. I'll
It's
go to the Iron Pigs over the Phillies.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
I get better seats at the Iron Pigs.
Yeah. You can get behind the plate for money that a guy
30
like
bucks a ticket or something.
yeah. I used to. It was the Nationals.
Yeah.
I used to watch them when they were the Nationals in Woodbridge. And then they moved down to Fredericksburg. I haven't been to a game since they moved to Fredericksburg, but I want to catch one. I have a friend who works there, so that'll be interesting. Anyway, we did the CR. I'm hoping that Trump tells these knuckleheads, I don't sign anything, number one, unless it's a budget for the whole year and 0 earmarks. You want to spend money on things other than entire departments. That bill stands alone. You vote it up or down, and then you send it to me, and then I'll sign it or veto it. But the budget is just to fund my departments, and that's all.
Yep, that's a very libertarian concept. We are very for single line item voting and a budget. I'm surprised, like, he's a businessman first. So it should make sense that I only want the budget. I don't need all this fluff. That's not the budget.
I'd like to see the line item veto brought in, where there's 1,500 lines, and he says, this is stupid. Cross it out. If Congress still wants that thing, they need 60 votes in the Senate to override. That, make them do their goddamn jobs.
Pay them enough.
Yeah, they've handed all their power to bureaucrats in the executive branch. And after doing that, they still can't come up with a damn budget. With a whole year to work with. I don't know how we're doing we're doing good on time. There was so much. My original page of notes under your name disappeared. So what's next for the Libertarian Party as you see it?
Big thing right now, we need to get ourselves together and present ourselves as like grown-ups to the world. Right now, I feel like we're presenting ourselves like high school kids trying to, like, 15 and 16-year-olds just got their working papers, trying to be the boss of a business or tell the boss what to do. Yeah. And I kind of want us to come across as more adults and serious and have our act together and mature and behave appropriately in professional manners, like professional emails and not calling people names publicly when you hold a elected position in the party, no matter which level, national, state, county, whatever. And a big thing I want to see us do is just grow and educate. I don't care if you join the Libertarian Party, but I would love to be able to work with you as long as we can find some common ground and be able to accept the ground that we aren't common on.
Yeah. One of the criticisms I've had of the Libertarian Party, and it's not across the board. There are places where it's strong, and there are places where these guys do the fundamentals. But too often they want to put somebody up for office of President of the United States. And yet the people who are trying to build this have never even gotten an alderman elected, in their home city. Without a network like that, it really doesn't matter who you're going to put up.
No, the national stuff doesn't matter. A federal level doesn't matter.
They're more than likely not going to succeed. But even if they do, if they don't have a strong movement that permeates state and local government behind them, it just doesn't matter.
No, because the people can't see it working.
Right.
And that's the one thing I like about being in Pennsylvania is we've used in the past the Malta maneuver, which we pretty much go through and find positions that we have a really good chance of winning and find good candidates and put candidates in. And we have in Pennsylvania probably the highest elected number of libertarians in the state. I think we have I don't know what our exact numbers, but I knew at one point we had almost 300 elected libertarians in various positions from um, um, judge of elections to county commission to township supervisor or different everything from local township level up through county level. And that's where we seem to thrive right now. And we need to focus a little smaller because, like you said, we need that foundation. And it goes back to the concept of build your house upon a rock, and you'll do a lot better than if you build your house upon sand. You need to get that foundation set. And it makes it easier when you do have those federal candidates, when you have that network below you to go and do the legwork and grunt work of getting those signatures, getting and finding those voters to convince them.
Yeah, yeah. But you have to follow up because with that success, that is the locus from which you demand power back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want the federal government running your educational system. You don't even want them involved.
Nope.
I think Linda McMahon should oversee the dissolution of her own entire department. That should be her mission set for the next 2.5, 3 years to eliminate the Department of Education. And then you tell the state, we will give you some play in education, but the education in Scranton is situated in Scranton. We know what our kids need.
Mm-hmm.
No? That's half the equation. The other half is parents showing up for the PTA meetings.
Yep.
You know, and showing up to raise their own kids. People say, oh, it's a two-income society. There's no such thing. There's no such animal as a two-income society. There are two-income households. And if you can manage the kids and get them properly educated and have two incomes, good for you. If you can't, you reduce your lifestyle voluntarily down to one income and you raise your kids. You homeschool them if you have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm an only child, and both of my parents worked my whole life. But I still, if it wasn't one, it was the other coming to some event or something at school. My dad's been there for fire prevention. My mom's come in for different things. Even my grandmother or my uncle have come for things when my parents couldn't get off work. Like I always had someone in my family there for something. And my parents helped with homework as much as they could until I surpassed their education level when I was taking calculus and stuff like that in high school. They're like, nope, I'm out. I was out at algebra.
You
but
were
they
what?
knew.
You were.
I was in calculus stuff, and they're like, I've been out since you started algebra. So yeah. So they I definitely see a difference having and I don't let people make that excuse. Well, we're a two-income household. We need to be that way. Well, maybe you don't need to work the overtime as a double overtime income because that means you're living outside of your means.
Right. Correct. There are people who say, we have to have 2 or 3 jobs to have our house, but they have a 4-bedroom house, and a 3/4 acre lot. Yeah, I could see that,
Yeah.
So don't do that. Yeah, it's more important that we work on raising better kids, having kids, but that's a whole different subject. Raising and engaging more in self-determination and self-autonomy than having luxuries. At some point, for some reason, and I'm guilty of it, I'm just as bad as anyone else. At some point, the average middle class person decided it has to be 3 and 2, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and a standalone house, standalone single family unit. Seriously, my parents were raised in apartments in the city, and their generation came out okay. They didn't die
Yeah.
because they were raised inside city limits and in twins or row homes. I grew up in a twin, and you had a little narrow sideway. Every other residence there was a sideway. Two and a sideway. And a driveway in the back, and we thought that was normal. That's the way it's supposed to be. You got a playground up the street. You got the street to play stickball. That
Yeah.
was normal.
Now I grew up in we started up until I was 4 in a mobile home, single wide mobile home. And then when my parents lucked out, we got a 3 bedroom house and stuff like that in a good school district. And I probably am pushing myself a little bit beyond my means, but my pros and cons of living where I'm at, I'm in the school district I went to. So I know the
That's
quality
cool.
of the school, and I live across the street from my parents. So I have babysitting and assistance.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So I'm like, I will pay a little more to have these perks.
Now, see, that's another traditional thing that you have, and more power to you that you do. You do have the 3 generations together, and that's the idea. You always should have, the kids should be able to, as they get a little older, grab a cheesesteak and go see grandma.
Yeah.
No,
They
she'll be
still
glad to have you.
my grandmothers are still alive. So my kids have I have a 4 generation interaction with my family because I
That's
have
awesome.
yeah, so TJ, my husband has we're down to 3 generations with his mom, him, and our kids. But we pretty much my grandmothers live a little bit further away from me, but they still live within, hey, let's go see great grandma. Let's go see Gigi. Like,
Yeah, that's cool. And you probably know a lot of your old classmates and stuff still.
yeah, actually, I purposely my ER nurse job is an hour away just because most of my friends and classmates and stuff still live in the area. So being in the ER, I'm like, no, I don't need them trying to ask for favors.
Yeah.
And now the full-time job I have is local, and I have seen quite a few people that I know. I'm like, oh, I know that name. Oh, I went to school with them. Oh, that's my cousin. Like,
Yeah, my
it's
sons and
just,
my brothers still have all their old buddies from grammar school, from kindergarten. I spent all my time from 18 till now that I'm 29 outside the area. So I've run into friends on Facebook, from childhood, but we don't know each other. We don't hang out. We don't go down and
Mhm.
go to the corner bar and have beers or Christmas together, none of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I have one good friend that I've pretty much either been I've been in contact with or was in class with since kindergarten. And I still see him, still hang out with him, and he's like a good friend of the family and stuff like that, and my kids love him.
I had a little something from Peter Zeihan. Do you follow any of his stuff?
I might. My husband sends me a ton of stuff, but doesn't tell me who it's from
Oh,
half the
no,
time.
you would know. You would know. Uh, Joe Rogan calls Peter Zeihan the most certain man he's ever met. And Zeihan really is. He's arrogant. I mean, but his stuff is really good. If you knew him, I was gonna go into it tonight, but um, suffice it to say, when he goes political, he goes all girly left. And his piece today was or yesterday was just awful. He was preaching that it's sad, it's bad, it's awful that labor, the rich, and identity don't dominate our politics. We have to get back to that, he's saying. It's like Peter, for such a smart guy, you know?
Didn't we
But
learn that didn't work?
exactly. He says we're getting back to voting for issues. No, no,
Okay.
no shit. Yeah. And the issues that carried this election were all the ones we were lectured by the government, the media, the deep state. These were the issues we were told were bad, and they carried the election, you know, which indirectly, and I'll call an audible and make this the last subject. Um, I'm starting to hear rumblings again. We got to get rid of the electoral college. Let me set it up this way. We have 3,400 and some counties in this country. Trump won 3,000 of them. And yet, the Dems still carried high 40%. You know, if the counties were all divided up equally, the Dems wouldn't have carried 1%, you know, but they carried 40 some percent of the vote. And if you look at the map, it's all red except for a few blue splotches. Okay. Now take away the electoral vote and flip that map, right? And let the Democrats lose when they dominate almost the entire map because, you know, because it's popular vote, right?
Hmm.
The same people would be screaming till the veins were popping out in their forehead that we need the electoral college back. And the electoral college, that's one of maybe one or two states' rights we have left. State power is the fact that these knuckleheads still have to come to Pennsylvania. You know, they still have to go to Wyoming to get elected. You know, they still have to sweat those two electoral votes in Nebraska because Nebraska splits.
Hmm.
So they have to work for it. And that's also where we get our representation in the House. You take away the electoral vote, New York, Chicago, and LA run
On everything.
from now on. What's the libertarian line on that?
Um, I know I think it's Rothbard was kind of pushing, at least we're doing this for the LNC level of stuff of having 50 representatives. So you have a 50 and everyone has the same each it's one per state type thing. So everyone's all across the board. So you need to get each state no matter what. California is just as valuable as Connecticut, is just as valuable as Alaska and Texas. Like they're all as valuable because you have it. The electoral college is flawed in the fact of you do have some of the bigger states have a little bit more say and more pull. So you have the couple states, you have your swing states that are popular. Pennsylvania is a swing state. So they're going to spend more time in those states that can flip them either way. And they're going to kind of ignore the states that I'm from New York. I've got this in the hat, or I'm from here. They're going to vote for me because I'm from there. And if they don't, it's only 2 votes. Like they don't, some of them don't care. So it's a slippery slope. There's probably a better option, but we don't have that yet.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's divided yet. I see it as a compromise between um, popular vote, straight up popular vote, no boundaries, which means that calling Pennsylvania Pennsylvania will just be a decoration.
Hmm.
It's not a sovereign state anymore. Popular vote, or um, like you said, the even count for states. Having the numerical arrangement, more population, more electoral votes, is kind of a nod to the popular vote. But the fact is, when you vote, you're not voting as um, you're not voting as Brittany the American voting for the American president. You're adding your voice to the voice of your state, and your state is going to speak and say who's going to be who they wish to be president. Most people don't appreciate how important it is to be a citizen of your state. Again, we talked at the beginning, we got the whole shooting match flipped over backwards, right? Upside
Hmm.
down. And they think, oh, well, worrying about the federal government, that's the varsity, whereas the state's like the JV or the freshman team. And people don't even know who their state representatives are,
Yeah.
you know? Um, so I think if we concentrate more along those lines, if we teach people more about that, I think by default we come away with a better union.
Yeah.
It is these,
Knowledge is power.
yeah, better balance of power, um, the proper locus of power. Your mayor, then your county guys, then your state representatives, then your governor, and way down the list are your senators and the president. They should be at the bottom of the heap. They have 3 jobs, according to the Constitution: the military, foreign affairs, and ensuring free flow of interstate trade. That's their job. But now we have 600,000 pages of U.S. code and millions of pages of regulation.
Yeah, and I think it should be that people should feel more empowered to go to their local powers, mayors, township supervisor, alderman, whatever it is their first tier. Go to them. People feel like they just jump past and then nothing happens. Well, yeah, because you're one person bringing this issue to them. There could be 100 other people with that same issue.
Right.
But
what does get past your town council and your mayor should be a small fraction of those issues.
yeah, it should be able to hand it in house.
Right. We should be pounding our mayors and county supervisors to death.
That's why I'm running for township supervisor.
I was just about to get there. So you're running again.
Yes, I am.
And you're running
I've kept my campaign going since my last one. I
county
never
council?
stopped. Township supervisor.
Township supervisor.
Mhm.
And it looks pretty good this time, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. It looks really good because I kept that momentum from the last race. I didn't skulk away with my tail between my legs. I kept going. I have a ton of people in my township that come to me with different things. I'm out in the community. I do road cleanups. I'm big involved with I call out the township on their votes. When I disagree with it, I praise them when I agree with it, and I hold them accountable and keep them transparent because I have been, since the election, the last election in 23, I have been videotaping and live streaming my township meetings on my own so that the community can see it if they're not available to come to the meetings. The meetings last like 15 minutes. So if you're running late at work or running late with dinner,
You'll miss it.
you're going to miss it.
They don't have Q&A or comment where,
They do, but no one comes.
that's unsatisfactory.
And I always say, if you have a complaint, I tell the people, they bring it to me, come to the meeting. The meeting's this time, come to the meeting. There's 2 opportunities to speak. One is for citizens and one is for public. And come when you have a complaint, come when you, even if you want to say something because they did something right, and want to give kudos, come to the meetings. And hold them accountable. Make it transparent, hold them accountable. Make them make the meeting last more than 15 minutes. Because I have on one of my websites, I don't know which one has it, I have a tally, a tracker of how many votes they've made that are 3-0. It's all of them.
That's ridiculous.
There are no...
They fear nothing.
Nothing. No, because it's 3 Republicans, has been like that for 30 years. And they go and the chair goes, can I have a motion for this? The vice chair goes, I motion XYZ. And the third guy goes, and she goes, is there a second? And the third guy goes, I second. And they all in favor? Aye. That's all it takes. The longest part it takes is the verbiage of the motion itself.
First you need a bigger board.
That's where I'm getting I'm getting into a lot of pushback from libertarians because we want small government. And I go and say, I'm like, this is not a popular opinion because we like small government. But at some point, there's too small. I'm like, I think we should be 5 because then you can actually have something pass still with some people disagreeing and showing some disagreement and being comfortable disagreeing or knowing, hey, if I disagree, the other 4 can still agree and it can still go through. So not everybody will get mad at me. The people that like me will say, cool, you stood up and said no. And the people that don't like me go, haha, it still passed, and they're happy. So more people win. But it's a very hard, slippery slope to fight with the libertarians and being on a libertarian ticket to push for a little bit bigger of government.
Yeah. If I could suggest, by growing the board, you're not growing government.
Yeah.
You're not adding a layer of government or a new branch or a committee to put up TV monitors to watch the citizens. All you're doing is making that board more specifically accountable to people, and by default, getting more people involved. So when they when they go down to elect their county representatives, that precinct is going to have a new name. You got the other 3 that have always been there, and now there's this guy in my precinct who's running, or these 2 people that I have.
Yeah, it's tough because ours are 6-year terms and they alternate every other year. So we have you have the first one gets elected, 2 years later, it's position 2. 2 years after that, it's position 3. After position 3, that right after, whatever, it's like cycles around every 3 and it's every 2 years. I think it might be 8. I don't know. I don't know the math anymore. It's late at night.
Cozy setup.
Yeah. So you're in,
and it would be harder to arrange something that cozy if there's 13 board members or 9 board members.
You'd be in and out. You'd have a couple that would have the longer, even at 5, the most common terms are, I think it's 3 4 years and 2 2 years. So you'd have it that you always have some sort, you'd never be able to maintain a majority for very long.
Right. Well, I am going to ask for a few commitments here, some from me, some from you, and some from the audience. First, I need the full URL for You Are the Power. Links for Chase Oliver and Mike Tremont. Did you know Scotty Pressler, right? The long-haired guy that came through PA and registered like 90,000 voters.
I might know him. I might know him by looks and not by.
We need to harangue him. I am looking for mentorship for me, but also people across the country to do what he did or anywhere close to it. Not even in their whole state, just in their township or their county or, their little region of the state. His energy level is huge. His enthusiasm is huge. And his whole message is just get the vote out, get out the vote. He was giving Amish people rides to the polls.
Mm-hmm.
But he handed PA to Trump, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on X. So now, besides myself, I need 2 people to hound him into giving us some time, some mentorship, whether I would like it to be a show appearance, but it could also just be communication. What are you doing right now? Who are you talking to? How do I do that? I can't even get involved in politics in my county. It's Republican. And I was working with the Republicans, or trying to just get involved. But they're so confident here in Westmoreland, they don't even bother. And yet the county demographic is changing kind of fast. So all of a sudden, these people who have been fat and lazy down there at Montrose are going to suddenly find themselves not so comfortable.
Yeah.
So I wanted Scott to teach me how to do in the county and in Virginia what he did in Pennsylvania. So we gotta hound Scotty Pressler. Haunt him, harass him on X and say, look, you got to do this with us, I almost had him on the show just before the election took off. And then he started showing up on Fox and, CNN and stuff like that. So it was like, yeah, who's got time for my dinky little, 20,000 people or whatever it was at the time. With that, I now know another successful politician. It's been a good show. I had a lot of fun. The name is Brittany Kosin. She is running for county supervisor in what county?
Warwick Township, Bucks County.
Warwick Township, Bucks County. So if you're from there, and you might be, because our strongest spots are Virginia and Pennsylvania, make sure you come out for Brittany, work for Brittany. Contact her either through her site, which is Unscripted Liberty.
Yep, that's my podcast. Yep, I have a.
Or through the P4B here at the Free Zone Communique. Brittany, it's been an awesome pleasure. You're a lot of fun. I do want to have you back.
Of course.
I want to let the conversation develop. There's going to be a lot of things in the next few months to talk about. We're going to start moving really fast, I think. When we start seeing people like Tulsi Gabbard at the top of DNI, oh my God.
I can't wait to see what Biden does on his way out and what Trump does when he first gets in. How petty are they going to be?
I can't blame Biden. Biden is a non-entity. He has been since 2018. Whoever is the illegitimate chief executive is trying to do as much damage as possible in these dying weeks. But the way I see it, anything they do without Congress, Trump can undo with a pen stroke. They want to make it hard to deport by presidential fiat. On day one, Trump can undo all those presidential mandates and have a few of his own. I prefer none of it get done by presidential proclamation.
Yeah.
I prefer to force Congress to do it. But to do that, we need to change the makeup of Congress, and we have to teach them to fear us. Ladies and gentlemen, they do not fear you. We have to teach them to fear us. So thank you very much, Brittany. It was awesome, and I'll see you again next time.
Please tell a friend about the Free Zone Communique. We live and die with the share and subscribe buttons. Please use affiliate and sponsor buttons to support our work. Thank you very much for joining us today.